Have you felt that unexplainable heaviness weighing down your soul, draining your energy and blocking your blessings, even when you've done everything right in your life? You pray diligently, work honestly, and treat others with kindness, yet something invisible seems to be working against you, creating obstacles in your relationships, finances, and health. This is not coincidence or bad luck. Padre Pio, the revered saint known for his profound spiritual wisdom and miraculous gifts, revealed an ancient truth that many spiritual leaders have kept hidden. Negative energies, envy, and even witchcraft can attach themselves to good people like you, creating a barrier between you and the abundant life God intended for you. What you're about to discover in these pages is a sacred teaching that Padre Pio shared only with his closest disciples. A simple yet extraordinarily powerful ritual, using nothing more than consecrated frozen salt to return all negative energy and witchcraft sent against you. This is not black magic or superstition. This is divine protection rooted in ancient spiritual wisdom that has transformed thousands of lives throughout history. Before I reveal this secret that has remained hidden for decades, you must understand that this teaching comes with great responsibility. The power to cleanse your spiritual environment and return negative energies to their source is a gift that must be approached with reverence and pure intention. As you continue reading, prepare yourself for a profound spiritual awakening. The ritual I'm about to share with you has helped countless people break free from inexplicable illness, financial struggles, relationship conflicts, and persistent bad luck that seemed to follow them no matter what they did. Some saw results within 24 hours of performing this simple yet sacred practice. But more important than the immediate relief is the lasting shield of divine protection that will surround you and your loved ones. Padre Pio taught that our spiritual well-being requires active protection in a world where negative energies flow freely. The enemy works in silence, he would say, but with consecrated salt you can illuminate the darkness and return what was never meant for you. The wisdom Padre Pio shared about spiritual protection stems from his extraordinary ability to see beyond the physical realm. With his gift of spiritual sight, he could identify the invisible attacks that were affecting his followers, attacks that conventional medicine or psychological counseling couldn't explain or address. In one particularly moving account, a woman came to Padre Pio suffering from debilitating headaches and unexplainable fatigue that had persisted for years despite consulting numerous doctors. When she approached Padre Pio, he immediately sensed the spiritual nature of her affliction. "Your suffering comes not from within, but from without," he told her. "Someone's envy has attached itself to you like a shadow." He then instructed her in the ritual of consecrated frozen salt, and within 3 days her symptoms, which had plagued her for over 7 years, completely disappeared. This is not an isolated incident, but one of many testimonies that demonstrate the effectiveness of this sacred practice. Padre Pio understood that negative energy operates under specific spiritual laws. What is sent can be returned, not out of vengeance, but as a restoration of divine order. The frozen consecrated salt works as a spiritual mirror, reflecting back what was never meant for you while simultaneously cleansing your own energy field. You might wonder why freezing the salt is so crucial to this process. Padre Pio explained that the freezing process crystallizes the salt's purifying properties, while symbolically freezing the negative intentions directed at you. Salt itself has been used for purification across virtually all spiritual traditions for millennia. But when consecrated and frozen according to Padre Pio's specific instructions, it becomes a powerful tool for spiritual defense that works on levels beyond our physical understanding. The beauty of this ritual lies in its simplicity and accessibility. You don't need to be a spiritual expert or have special gifts to perform it effectively. Padre Pio deliberately shared this method because it could be used by anyone with faith and pure intention, regardless of their spiritual development. God provides simple solutions to complex spiritual problems, he would often say. The humblest elements of the earth, salt, water, light, contain the greatest spiritual power when approached with faith. Before I reveal the exact steps of this ritual, I want you to reflect on areas of your life where you've experienced persistent blockages or unexplainable difficulties. Have relationships suddenly soured for no reason? Has your financial situation deteriorated despite your best efforts? Do you suffer from mysterious health issues that doctors can't diagnose? These are often signs of spiritual interference that the consecrated frozen salt ritual can address. The power of Padre Pio's teaching comes from understanding that spiritual warfare requires spiritual weapons. In our modern world, we've been conditioned to seek only physical or psychological explanations for our struggles, overlooking the spiritual dimension that often lies at their root. Padre Pio witnessed countless cases where medical treatments failed because the real cause was spiritual in nature. One man, a successful business owner, watched his thriving company inexplicably begin to fail. Every business decision that had previously brought success now led to loss. When he consulted Padre Pio in desperation, the holy man immediately perceived the spiritual attack directed at him by a jealous competitor. "Your enemy is not the market," Padre Pio told him, "but the envy that has been directed at your prosperity." After performing the consecrated frozen salt ritual for 9 consecutive days, the businessman saw his situation dramatically reverse. Clients returned, opportunities appeared, and the inexplicable bad luck that had plagued him vanished. This ritual works on 3 essential spiritual principles that Padre Pio explained to his followers. First, it creates a boundary of protection around your spiritual energy field that negative forces cannot penetrate. Second, it acts as a mirror, reflecting back negative intentions to their source without you having to know who sent them. Third, it purifies your own energy, removing any attachments or influences that may have already affected you. These 3 principles work together to create not just a momentary solution, but a lasting shield against future attacks. The ritual's effectiveness lies in its ability to work on multiple spiritual levels simultaneously, addressing both the symptoms and the source of spiritual interference in your life. If you believe that this ancient teaching from Padre Pio can transform your life as it has for thousands of others, type in the comments, "I am ready for this blessing," and subscribe to the channel for more powerful spiritual revelations that can protect you and your loved ones. The time for spiritual ignorance is over. You deserve to know the truth about the invisible forces affecting your life and how to defend against them. Padre Pio didn't want this knowledge to remain hidden in monasteries or accessible only to spiritual elites. He believed every person has the right to protect their God-given peace, prosperity, and purpose from spiritual interference. As we move into the next chapter, prepare yourself to receive the exact instructions for this powerful ritual that you can begin implementing tonight. The preparation of consecrated frozen salt begins with intention, the most powerful force in spiritual work. Padre Pio taught that our conscious intention acts as a catalyst that activates the spiritual properties of physical elements. Begin by obtaining natural sea salt, preferably unprocessed and free from additives. Padre Pio specified that the purer the salt, the more effective it becomes as a spiritual conductor. Once you have your salt, find a quiet moment when you won't be disturbed, ideally during the early morning hours when spiritual energy is most receptive. Hold the salt in your hands and close your eyes, centering your thoughts on divine protection. This moment of connection is crucial. You're not merely preparing a physical substance but activating a spiritual tool through your conscious alignment with higher protection. The consecration process involves a simple yet powerful prayer that Padre Pio taught his followers. With the salt in your hands, pray. Through the intercession of Padre Pio, I consecrate this salt for divine protection. May it be purified and blessed to return all negative energy, envy and witchcraft sent against me, reflecting it back to its source without harm to the innocent. May this salt become a vessel of divine justice and protection for my home and all who dwell within it. As you say these words, visualize a bright white light surrounding the salt, infusing it with protective energy. Padre Pio explained that this visualization isn't merely symbolic. It actually changes the energetic properties of the salt on a quantum level, transforming it from an ordinary substance into a vehicle for spiritual action. After the consecration, divide the salt into 3 small containers, preferably glass, though any clean container will suffice. The number 3 is significant in this ritual, representing the divine trinity and the 3 spiritual principles of boundary, reflection, and purification that we discussed earlier. Place these containers in your freezer, allowing the salt to completely freeze solid. As it freezes, affirm, "As this salt crystallizes, so too are all negative intentions directed at me or my household crystallized and returned to their source." Padre Pio taught that the freezing process not only symbolically freezes negative intentions, but also amplifies the salt's reflective properties. The physical transformation of the salt from granules to a frozen mass parallels the spiritual transformation of energy from harmful to neutralized. Placing the consecrated frozen salt strategically throughout your home creates a comprehensive shield of protection that Padre Pio described as an invisible fortress. The first container should be placed near the main entrance of your home. This is the primary point where external energies, both positive and negative, enter your living space. By positioning the frozen consecrated salt here, you establish a spiritual filter that allows positive energy to flow freely while blocking and reflecting negative influences. Padre Pio emphasized that this placement is particularly important if you suspect that someone who has visited your home has brought negative energy or intentions with them. Knowingly or unknowingly, the second container should be placed in the center of your home, which Padre Pio identified as the heart or energetic core of your living space. This location radiates protective energy throughout the entire household, reaching every corner and crevice where negative energy might otherwise linger or hide. As you place this central container, visualize protective light emanating from it in all directions, filling your home with divine protection. Padre Pio taught that this central placement works continuously to purify the accumulated energies in your home, the residual effects of arguments, illness, stress, or any negative emotions that may have been experienced within those walls. Think of it as a spiritual air purifier, constantly cleansing the energetic atmosphere of your home. The third container has a special purpose that Padre Pio was particularly insistent upon. It should be placed in your bedroom, ideally under or near your bed. This placement protects you during sleep, when your spiritual defenses are naturally lower and you're more vulnerable to negative influences. During sleep, the soul travels while the body rests, Padre Pio would explain. This is when protection is most needed. Many who have followed this teaching report experiencing deeper, more restful sleep almost immediately, free from the disturbing dreams or inexplicable night anxieties that had previously plagued them. Some even describe waking with a noticeable sense of lightness and energy they hadn't felt in years, as if an invisible weight had been lifted from their spirit during the night. The timing of this ritual carries significant spiritual importance that Padre Pio emphasized to his followers. For maximum effectiveness, the consecrated frozen salt should be prepared during the waning phase of the moon, the period after the full moon as it decreases to new moon. This cosmic timing aligns with the natural cycle of diminishing and releasing, making it the optimal period for spiritual work that involves returning or releasing negative energies. Padre Pio explained that even our most basic protective practices become amplified when synchronized with these natural rhythms that God established in creation. If possible, begin the ritual on a Wednesday, which traditionally has been associated with Mercury, the messenger planet that facilitates the movement and return of energies. Once you've placed all three containers of consecrated frozen salt in their designated locations, they should remain undisturbed for a full cycle of 9 days. The number 9 holds profound spiritual significance across traditions, representing completion and divine fulfillment. During these 9 days, Padre Pio instructed his followers to maintain heightened spiritual awareness and to pay careful attention to any changes in their circumstances or feelings. You may notice subtle shifts beginning almost immediately, perhaps an inexplicable sense of lightness or relief, or sudden resolution to problems that had seemed insurmountable. Others report more dramatic manifestations, the unexpected return of lost opportunities, reconciliation in troubled relationships, or the strange but welcome distancing of problematic people from their lives. On the 9th day, a crucial final step completes the ritual cycle. The salt, having now absorbed and reflected the negative energies, must be properly disposed of, never simply thrown in the trash. Padre Pio instructed that the salt should be dissolved in flowing water, symbolizing the complete release and return of the negative energies to their universal source for transformation. You might dissolve it in running water from your sink or, if possible, in a natural flowing stream. As you do this, offer a simple prayer of completion. This work is finished. All that is not of light and love has been returned to its source for transformation. My home and spirit are purified and protected by divine grace. A Padre Pio taught that this proper conclusion to the ritual is as important as its beginning. It completes the spiritual circuit and prevents any lingering connection to the negative energies that have been captured. The transformative effects of the consecrated frozen salt ritual often manifest in 3 distinct phases, according to Padre Pio's teachings. The first phase typically occurs within 24 to 72 hours of placing the salt in your home. During this initial period, many people report experiencing what Padre Pio called the revelation, suddenly becoming aware of the sources of negativity in their lives that had previously been hidden from them. You might have surprising realizations about certain relationships or situations that have been draining your energy. This clarity isn't coincidental, but a direct result of the ritual beginning to clear the spiritual fog that negative energies create around their targets. One woman who followed Padre Pio's teaching described this experience as like finally seeing clearly after years of looking through a dirty window. This awareness itself is protective, as Padre Pio taught that recognized negativity loses much of its power over us. The second phase typically emerges between the 4th and 6th days of the ritual, manifesting as what Padre Pio described as the return. During this period, those who sent negative energy or ill intentions your way may suddenly contact you, often with strange or unexpected behavior. Some might offer apologies out of nowhere, while others might reveal their true feelings through uncharacteristic actions. Padre Pio explained that this happens because the reflected energy creates a spiritual discomfort that the sender must somehow address. One man reported that a business associate who had been undermining him behind the scenes suddenly confessed his actions without any apparent prompt. Another described how a relative who had been secretly envious suddenly began asking for spiritual guidance. These situations aren't about vengeance, but rather about truth being revealed and relationships being either healed or appropriately distanced. The final phase, which typically unfolds after the completion of the 9-day cycle, is what Padre Pio called the restoration. This is when the full effects of the spiritual cleansing become evident in your external circumstances. The obstacles that had blocked your progress begin to dissolve. Opportunities that seemed lost suddenly reappear, and a sense of flow returns to areas of life that had been stagnant. Physical symptoms that had spiritual roots often diminish or disappear entirely. When the spirit is freed from attack, the body can finally heal itself as God designed it to, Padre Pio would explain. This restoration isn't merely a return to your previous state, but often an elevation to where you would have been had the negative influences never affected you. Padre Pio described this as divine compensation, God's way of restoring not just what was taken but adding blessings to compensate for the suffering endured. Padre Pio offered specific guidance for those facing particularly persistent or severe spiritual attacks. If you've experienced prolonged periods of unexplainable misfortune, severe health issues that defy medical explanation, or if you work in spiritually vulnerable professions such as healing, counseling, or ministry, you may benefit from an intensified application of the consecrated frozen salt ritual. In these cases, Padre Pio recommended creating a 4th container of consecrated frozen salt, specifically prepared during the hours between midnight and 3 a.m., what he called the adversary's hours. This special container should be larger than the others and placed directly in the area where you feel the strongest negative influence, or where you engage in your most important work. For some, this might be a home office. For others, it could be a healing room or creative space. The ritual can be further amplified through conscious engagement during its 9-day duration. Each morning upon waking and each evening before sleeping, take a moment to acknowledge the working of the consecrated salt in your home. Padre Pio suggested placing your hand on one of the containers and affirming, "I am protected by divine light. What is not mine returns to its source." This conscious connection strengthens your personal energy field and reinforces your spiritual boundaries. Additionally, Padre Pio advised incorporating complementary spiritual practices during the 9-day period, particularly increased prayer, moments of contemplative silence, and acts of charity. These practices elevate your own vibration, making you naturally more resistant to lower energies and creating what Padre Pio called a harmony between your protective actions and your inner state. Perhaps most importantly, Padre Pio emphasized that this ritual should be approached not from a place of fear, but from a position of spiritual authority. Fear attracts the very things we wish to avoid, he would caution his followers. This ritual is not performed from fear, but from the peaceful certainty that divine order must prevail. This distinction in mindset dramatically affects the ritual's efficacy. When performed from a centered place of spiritual confidence rather than anxiety, the consecrated frozen salt works not just as a defensive measure, but as an affirmative statement of your rightful spiritual boundaries. One of Padre Pio's disciples recounted his words on this matter. When you establish your boundaries with peaceful authority rather than fear, the universe itself supports your declaration. Your protection becomes not just a shield against negativity, but a beacon that attracts more positive experiences aligned with your true path. The wisdom of Padre Pio extends beyond this single ritual to encompass a comprehensive understanding of spiritual protection as a way of life. He taught that while the consecrated frozen salt ritual provides powerful intervention and immediate protection, lasting spiritual security comes from integrating certain principles into your daily existence. First among these is the practice of energetic awareness, developing your natural ability to sense when something or someone doesn't feel right. Padre Pio believed that every person possesses this intuitive capacity, though many have been conditioned to ignore these subtle internal warnings. Your spirit recognizes spiritual danger before your mind can name it, he would say. By honoring these intuitive nudges rather than dismissing them as irrational, you establish your first line of defense against negative influences. Maintaining your own spiritual hygiene forms the second cornerstone of ongoing protection. Padre Pio prescribed a simple daily practice of visualizing yourself surrounded by protective light each morning before engaging with the world and each evening before sleep. This doesn't replace the power of the consecrated frozen salt ritual, but rather complements it by strengthening your personal energy field. The ritual works on your environment, Padre Pio explained, while the visualization works directly on your spirit. When both are employed together, they create what he called impenetrable protection, a state where negative energies not only fail to affect you but actually slide away from your energy field without gaining any purchase. This daily practice takes only moments but provides cumulative protection that builds over time. Perhaps most profound was Padre Pio's teaching about the ultimate source of spiritual protection, a life lived in harmony with divine principles. The greatest protection comes not from rituals alone, he would counsel, but from aligning your choices, words, and actions with truth and love. This doesn't mean perfection, but rather a consistent intention toward goodness. Padre Pio observed that those who maintained this alignment naturally repelled negative energies without any additional effort. Their very presence became unwelcoming to darkness. As you incorporate the consecrated frozen salt ritual into your spiritual practice, remember that it works most powerfully when supported by this broader context of conscious living. The ritual provides immediate intervention and protection during challenging times, while your daily choices create the foundation for lasting spiritual security. Together, they form a complete system of protection that addresses both urgent spiritual threats and long-term spiritual well-being. The time has come to reclaim your divine right to peace, prosperity, and protection. By implementing Padre Pio's ancient wisdom of the consecrated frozen salt ritual, you are not engaging in superstition, but rather accessing spiritual laws as real as gravity. The negative energies, envy, and witchcraft that may have been affecting your life, keeping you from your rightful blessings, can be returned to their source, allowing your true path to unfold without interference. Remember that this spiritual knowledge comes with responsibility. Use it for protection and restoration, never for revenge. Padre Pio was clear that this ritual operates within divine law, which always protects the innocent while allowing natural consequences to reach those who send negativity into the world.